After you shall receive a happy hour. That's in 2 minutes. What's up, Ham Radio? Kilo Echo 8, Papa Zulu November, the Ham Radio Adventure Guy. Thanks for stopping by. Your one stop for everything Adventure Radio. It is Hump Day. Time for the Hump Day Happy Hour. I've had a lot of Patreons ask me for this exact stream. Everybody must love this Walt guy because I tell you what, they keep asking me to bring him on. So we're going to have a great stream with Walt from Coastal Waves and Wires. And before we do that, we're going to thank some of the people that keep asking for it. The Patreons, they are absolutely awesome people. And you know what? I'm going to return some of that awesomeness to some of them this weekend. This weekend, I will be in Murphy, North Carolina, doing a Patreon meetup with several of these guys. So if you're near Murphy, make sure and look us up. Also, shout out to the YouTube members, also equally important. And then the Ever-Changing Adventure Club. Josh with a big off-stream donation. I don't think nobody's going to knock this guy out of first place. He's on top of the world, buddy. I'll tell you what. All right. Before we get to Walt, Hayden, how you doing?
Doing good. Doing good.
How's the boat? Because I know that's what you're going to talk about.
It's still not in the water yet.
But
the swim platform is done.
Sir.
And it's getting ready to go on the boat this weekend. Monday or Tuesday.
Do you sit in the seat and have your wife spray you with the hose and whip your hair around?
Only on special occasions.
Okay. Dan, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. Looking forward to the stream. Walt, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Looking forward to this.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to get started. And first off, Walt, welcome to the stream. And just in case, I'm pretty sure all of my viewers know who you are because they were the ones that were wanting to see you on here. But we're going to let you give it a little intro of who you are and what got you into ham radio to start off with.
Well, I'm Walt, K4OGO. I live in the Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Virginia area. So I'm surrounded by water. And I love to get out and operate portable by salt water because it's a pretty magical thing with HF radio signals, especially with vertical antennas. And I really enjoy that. You said you're going to be in North Carolina this weekend. I am too. I'll be in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, out on the beach playing radio. So I'm looking forward to that. Fortunately, it's about a little over an hour drive from me, and my wife likes going down there and hanging out for the weekend. So this time of year, the rates are cheap, and we head down there and spend the weekend and have some fun. So, and I know you guys are POTA guys. I think I've activated Jockey's Ridge, which is a big sand dune for guys that have been down to the Outer Banks. And Last activation I did down there was Wright Brother Memorial, the big Kitty Hawk where flight began. I've activated there, but how I got started in the hobby, well, I guess it would say all the way back when I was a wee lad, I was really into medium wave AM DXing, receiving, and that led to shortwave. And then studied to get my novice back in the early 70s. And then this thing called CB came out, and I could realize that I didn't care about the 5 words per minute novice just to get on HF. I could get on HF with a realistic CB radio. And I got heavy into that in the 70s and 80s. And then girls, cars, and everything else kind of slowed me off of radio for a little while, and then got back into it later. I was actually for a few years on a local radio station here. I don't put this out a lot on my videos, but WGH AM. I had a talk show on a sports talk show for a while on AM radio. So I've always loved radio, just been into radio, and now I through through YouTube, I like making videos. I like kind of I see so many people out there that want to be YouTube people and making videos, and some of them are really good. You guys make good videos, but you guys know as well as I do, and I hope there's nobody here in this group. You look at some of them and I cringe, you know what I mean? So I want to make videos that I would want to watch, and that's kind of what I try to do. When I make a video, I watch it 3 or 4 times myself to say, hey, would I like this video if I watched it? And hopefully with it, when I make a video, I always say this, and it's a true statement. When I learn something, I know I'm going to do a video on it. I'll just search it in depth, get into it, because I'm trying to, as it makes me retain it and learn it, and then I'm also passing the knowledge on as well. So that's kind of my philosophy with it. I grew up on the beach, live in beaches. I played beach volleyball as a kid, surfed, been like you guys, on boats my whole life or whatever. So I just love salt water, and it's just an amazing thing that ham radio and salt water are a perfect marriage, and it goes perfect together. Anyway, I'll talk all night, guys. I'm a rag chewer, so you guys better take it from here.
Hey, we'll let you talk all night. Lou says you're talking about him when you're talking about cringing about videos.
No. I just thought it's kind of funny, I don't mean, I know you guys obviously put a lot of effort into it, because I see a lot of people, you could tell, all right, man, I know you just think you're going to throw 2 or 3 videos up and, get 1,000 subscribers. And a lot of people don't realize how hard it is. And I mean, I'm coming up on 18,000 subscribers, and I tell you what, I was making less than minimum wage at all the hours I put in to get those 18,000 subscribers. And I'm not money, although it is nice little something, but
you ain't getting rich at it, that's for sure.
No, I just enjoy it, and it's fun, and I really like to. I want to. I'm 62, and I'm 82. I'd like to look back 20 years from now and look at the body of work I put together, if it's still there, and go, hey, I'm pretty proud of that. You know what I mean? That's kind of my thought pattern too.
Good stuff. Yeah, people sometimes they're like, "Oh, you're monetized. You're making the big money now." And no, that's not how that works, y'all.
No.
No,
you're doing right. You got to have. I tell you what happened to me is, like, a couple months ago, I started a membership, and I kept it pretty low on my channel, but started a channel membership, and it's amazing how much that helps you. I mean, that's another thing people don't realize. I spend, not even the equipment I keep, so it's mine or whatever, but you think about time, wire, everything else for building all these antennas they're not cheap. You know what I mean? And spend a lot of money, and every dime I've ever made on my YouTube channel has only been an investment back into the channel, for sure.
Exactly. Well, most of my stuff is POTA related, and a lot of the money that I make off YouTube, it just goes into my gas tank, because I'm always going to do POTA.
Right.
I'm always out there doing POTA, and I guarantee you, I spend more gas than the normal 4 people going to work a week, going out and doing POTA. And, people don't take that in consideration, but you're the same way. You build antennas like crazy. And that's kind of where I wanted to go next. What kind of, when you first started doing ham, what made you say, forget this buying antenna stuff. I'm going to start building them. I want to learn about building them, and you keep pushing the envelope with that. Tell us a little bit about that.
I'll tell you, this was and how the channel started. My very first video on the channel, we're all in Facebook groups, right? You know, the ham radio operators and all of those or whatever. Well, about 3 or 4 years ago, I was on my way. It was a little over 3 years ago, coming up on 4 years ago, maybe 3. Anyway, I'm old. I can't remember dates anymore. But anyway, I was on my way. I had to go for work. I had to go to Kauai, Hawaii, you know, out the outermost island of Kauai there. And I knew I was going to be there for a few weeks. And I put on, I had, you know, not dumb. I understood the principle of a vertical antenna by salt water or whatever. And you know how I like to sketch. If anybody watches or knows me on social media, I sketch up antennas because I'm a design engineer. So I sketched up this vertical antenna and I posted it. I didn't even have a YouTube channel yet. I posted it on a YouTube group, and about 95% of the sad hams or whatever told me, because I said I'm going to make this vertical antenna because I just wanted to wrap it up and throw it in a suitcase. That's all I could do, you know. And I'm going to Hawaii, and I'm taking my little 5-watt QRP rig with me, and I'm gonna, you know, see how it works. And everybody's like, that far out in the middle of the Pacific, you're not gonna make any contacts, and you're doing it wrong. You need to build a dipole, you know, map with me, right? So I was like, you know what? I was getting madder and madder and madder with all these people just beating the heck out of me in this Facebook group. So I said, okay. So I went there and I said, you know, we'll film it. So when I make these contacts, I'm going to go back to that group, and the idea was just film one video and building the wire antenna. And I filmed it. It was a vertical. It was I built actually I bought one pre-made, the tri-band QRP guys transformer. Put a 16.5-foot wire on when I got there, I went to Walmart and bought a paint stick and whatever. I put it up on I did have a crappy pole. I put it up, and man, I was slaying it. It was awesome. You know, I mean, I talked to this was, you got to realize too, this was 2019, 2020. It was the solar minimum we're just coming out of it. And I was, you know, I made a 5-watt 5.9 contact to New Zealand. And people think, well, you're in the Pacific. Well, New Zealand from Hawaii is that's like a long ways away. I think it was like 5,000 miles or whatever. And anyway, I put the video together and posted it. And it started another frenzy of sad hams and people calling me names or whatever. And I was like, that's pretty cool. When I got back like a week or two later, I actually made the video. I said, hey, I'm right here surrounded by saltwater, Virginia. So I made another antenna, and then it started snowballing, and I made another antenna. And then I started like buying every book I could on vertical antennas and wire antennas. And I realized I was learning and really learning from it, whatever. And it's just like, I don't know, I guess it was like my gateway drug to what I do now on the channel. Is like, all right, I want to build another antenna. I want to build it. I want to build everything. And so that's why it was just kind of like, it started off with me giving a big old, you know, that to the people on Facebook page I was on, and it took off, and I'm glad it did. I'm having a blast with it now. It's a lot of fun.
Facebook can be a dumpster fire.
I have since pretty much left all the groups in Facebook. I got a couple friends that, the iHeart QRP group. I love QRP. I like them, and SSB QRP. And you guys know Kevin out in Iowa. I really like him.
Kevin's great.
A lot of him and and those guys police it. And they know who's who. They don't let people pick on me. I like that. So and that's about it. But the other ones, if you're a new ham and you get on Facebook, you're doomed. You're doomed. You're going to get beat down. It really is horrible.
Yeah, like I tell people all the time, you know, if you want information about POTA, don't join the POTA Facebook page, because that place is just absolutely full of people that barely even do POTA, that will just sit and criticize you for anything and everything. And just like the other day, they were criticizing the way two adults and 5 youths were activating on there. And I'm like, you guys have really sunk so low that you're going to try to run the youth out of ham radio? I mean, How low can you guys go?
That makes me mad when I see something like that. I mean, I get fired up over that. I mean, I can't stand that. I can't, because that's another thing that I feel very strongly about is we have a hobby that needs to double in size. We really do. And I want to be a part of that doubling in size and having more operators, and I'm very patient. There's a lot of people, you hear them on their air that are bad operators. You just take the time with them, whatever, it works. I think the worst operators I hear, and you can tell who they are too, they're old dudes with a lot of money that have a beam in their backyard and they're pumping a kilowatt and they're stepping all over everybody else. And
I'm not old.
I'll be honest with you, if I had that kind of money, I'd do it too. But you hear them. I'll hear some kid, trying to break a pile up, and I know this guy hears them too. You know what I mean? And he just like steps all on him or whatever, and that so. Getting a little off track, but anyway, I want to see new blood. I really do want to see guys that are really,
Absolutely, and the youth, you get them interested in it. That's new blood for a long time, guys.
Right.
And I don't understand why you would ever do something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That. And another thing too. I mean, carrying on, and you guys tell me to shut up if you want me to. I like to talk, but I've been very fortunate too that, like, for the past 2 years, I've been off and on working over in Poland. So that was a heck of an experience for me. And while I was working over there, the group I was with, we had a house. And I had the whole house. We were rotating one guy in at a time. I had the whole house to myself. I had nobody to worry about bothering with noise, anything else. I had a big backyard. So knowing that I was inland, I was in Poland, and I was always building verticals here in the States. That was my horizontal / sloper / those antennas while I was there. So that was a lot of fun too. So I'm getting to this thing now where I want to build a homemade hex beam for the beach, and I want to build a Moxon, my own, not just go buy one. I'm kind of getting to that place now where I like wore out every vertical and every in-fed half wave, off center fed dipole, all the long wire antennas, whatever. It's like I want to start doing exotic stuff now. So, and hopefully the channel will help me do that. You know what I mean? Because once you can start talking about that type of antenna, it's not cheap.
Absolutely. And and that's a lot of people are really in that. Everybody wants to build their own things and stuff like that. So it's a good thing to do, to put out there on YouTube, so people don't get discouraged and when they mess up and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but
there's nothing wrong with store-bought antennas, or we call appliance operating, just buying a radio and putting up an antenna that you buy. Hey, it's all about operating at the end of the day. I mean, a lot of my videos is just me with I've got a few. Chameleon has sent me a couple antennas. I get the heck beat out of me every time I do one of their antennas and the videos. Everybody tells me how expensive they are and how I've left my roots from building antennas and I'm using someone else's or whatever. But I enjoy it. I came from the CB world, so I love hustlers and all this. That's the cool thing about CB antennas is there's so many cool ones out there, and you can use them on 10 meters. So it's like, so I like that type of thing too.
Absolutely. So Larry wants to know, and by the way, Larry's one of the Patreons who requested you on this stream, but he wants to know what's your favorite antenna you've ever built.
It's funny you say that. I just did a video on that. About halfway vertical for 20 meters is I would say it's my favorite because it just performs. I love the Ribicoff antenna as well. I saw him in there earlier. He asked if I ever tested any away from, matter of fact, you go back to my videos, both the Ribicoff antenna was a Poland thing. I built that first in Poland. My Coastal 20 antenna that I use on the beach has kind of evolved a little bit. The first time I did that, I had a lot of time on my hands when I was in Poland. I did that in the backyard in Poland, and then I collaborated a little bit with, if you guys know Tim G5 TM over in the United Kingdom. He's a really good friend of mine, and the guy's brilliant. he did a little modeling for me, and because I didn't have modeling capabilities while I was there, he helped model some stuff, and we went back and forth, and that antenna grew. That was first tested in the backyard in Poland. The one we all call the 17.5 with a 4 on the bottom of it. The first time I used that was backyard in Poland. So yeah, to answer that question I saw in the chat earlier, yeah, a lot of these I have tested away from salt water. And people say, and I get this all the time, well, you know, if you weren't by salt water, you wouldn't be getting all that DX or whatever. I say, okay, but if you lived by salt water, wouldn't you it's like, if you lived in Talladega and had a car that would do 200 mile an hour, would you drive it on the interstate or would you get on the racetrack? You know what I mean? It's like, come on, it's just like got a surrounding of things that bring me great DX. I'm sorry if you don't have that, but I'm, you know,
you use what you got.
That's right. Use
Right.
what you got.
You know, and one of my favorite things to do is to get out early morning and sit near a body of water and activate. And lately it's been with CW that I like to do that. But, you know, I was always like that, you know, even here in West Virginia. But then, you know, I started going to Florida every year for a month in February. And, you know, I started going down there and I started doing that on the ocean. And I found out really quick what you're talking about with that salt water, because you really start reaching out there with that stuff. And it's a
10,
world difference.
10 dB gain with a vertical. If you're using a ground plane in a vertical next to the salt water with the salinity of the Atlantic and even the Gulf of Mexico and the Pacific, I've been on all three of them. It's about a 10 dB gain. So, you know, just roughly theoretically, if you're sitting there with 5 watts, you're pumping 50 per se. You know what I mean? If you got 100 watts, it's like having 1,000. As far as, you know, what kind of what kind of dBs or what they call them, bananas or whatever, that you're pumping out into the ether there. It's amazing. It really is. It's just amazing.
Now remember, guys, I've heard him say the word vertical many a times on the stream. I don't know anybody else that would be preaching that, but I just wanted to remind y'all that.
That is right.
Yeah.
Now getting off the vertical, George Bang Bang wants to know any thoughts or experiences with a Delta loop.
I have. I've actually built and used it at saltwater. A couple of them, but the ones I went a little different. I think it was a year and a half, 2 years ago. I built a Delta loop for 10 meters, but instead of the traditional way, I put it on a pole vertically and fed it so the top part of the vertical was a quarter wavelength for 10, and then the rest of it came around, and I spun that thing around, and it was like having a beam. It was pretty awesome. So that was cool. I like that. I've used commercial somewhat Delta loop, the Chameleon tactical Delta loop. I've been out with that. Last month, maybe I think it was last month, I built a square loop, and that was a lot of fun, and put those up. So yeah, loops are amazing. The thing I like about loops is the quietness of receive. You know what I mean? I'm so used to verticals and loud, you know, people even say, man, I listen to your video and my ears bleed because they're so loud, you know what I mean? Because I'm out there with a vertical antenna. But that's one thing about Delta loops is the receive is so great and it's so quiet.
I have zero experience with transmit on loops, but my main receive antenna is a loop on ground, and I absolutely love it.
See, I live up here. I'm on the 3rd floor of a building that was built like a Civil War. It's old, 1800s. I live in Old Town District here in the harbor. So all I can have, like I have a crappy old commercial vertical out the back, but if I had a yard, and if I go back to Poland, I would build a loop on the ground just to do that. I've seen so many people.
It's so nice.
It's amazing what you can hear. You can pull people out of a guy like me with a crappy antenna with 5 watts, you'll hear me because of that loop. Yeah.
So Sandy asked, what about saltwater pools? That's what she asked.
No, that's a good question. And some guy in Canada built. I'll lead into the answer. This guy in Canada took and got a bucket of salt water and put it on his patio in Montreal, out in the middle of the city, and stuck a wire in it and contact. Because look, it works. It doesn't work. It doesn't. Few things to answer that question. The pool won't work. It's not the salt water itself. It's the entire reflective. It's the ground. I mean, it's like that would be like, what if I was on the top of a condominium and I got a pool and filled it with dirt? Would the radials in the dirt, would that help my ground? It's not. It's the actual salt water and getting into the dirt and the ground itself, that whole reflective area. And the other question like that I get is, so the answer to that one real quick, no, the pool, that wouldn't work. And the other one I get, and it breaks my heart to tell everybody this, but the Great Lakes, you might as well just stick in your backyard on the ground. The Great Lakes are fresh water, and fresh water, although I think there's a little bit of there. I think the thing with the Great Lakes and freshwater, or any lake anywhere with freshwater, is you're away from the noise and you're in a better shape. And your first skip takeoff is unobstructed.
Yeah.
But that amplification, as we call it, the saltwater amplifier, is not there. Yeah, you're going to make some decent contacts being by a big lake, but you're not going to get the magic of that salt water.
I remember back, we used to do some grounding for data centers in one of my previous jobs, and sometimes we actually had to aftermarketly, I guess, salt the ground to get a lower impedance. I wonder if that plays a part into why you get such a good ground on salt water.
It does. I've so I can say this. I was involved with a little bit of a military effort. It was a thing called Desert Storm or whatever. And one of the things that was done there was guys would put the radials on the ground and urinate across them all the way up and down them.
Yeah.
And the salt in your body and then the ground or whatever. It according to the 18 Echo Army guys, they said that was something that was like their little secret trick or something like that. I'm like, all right, guys, whatever, but yeah, it's something to wetting a surface or salt water on the ground.
Did
like
some poor soul have to wind that wire back up when they were done?
I don't know. I didn't stick around. I'm not a tough guy. I'm not one of those
right.
special guys. They were protecting me. I'm an engineer that was over there working. So
now I highlighted this comment because I normally only give Mike crap, but I got to agree with him there. The view of the lake does add about 10 dB in your mind, because it does something magical.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's. I tell you what, I went when I was in Poland. I was about 15 miles from the Baltic Sea. And I went down there with a QRP rig thinking I looked at the salinity level of the Baltic. It is way low, slightly above a lake. And I went down there and I filmed a video that never made it on the air because I never made a contact with 5 watts on the Baltic. It just didn't happen.
The Dead Sea would be phenomenal.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that. I always wanted to go to the Great Salt Lake too, because I know in Salt Lake City has an AM radio station that there's a tower that sits right on the Salt Lake, and they said that thing booms, so that would be kind of cool. I getting back to verticals, I saw a couple on YouTube. I'd never seen them before. They went out on the Bonneville Salt Flats, and said they were talking about operating on it, and then they built a end-fed half-wave horizontal antenna across it. And I'm like, you're doing it all wrong. And I see that too. I felt bad. It's like they're like, nah, there's nothing to the salt. Now I want to go to the Bonneville Salt Flats and put a vertical up too. I think that would be kind of cool.
So I've got a question for you, Walt.
Yeah.
When you're out on the beach with your vertical and you're using the benefits of the salt water, what kind of ground plane system are you setting up?
I learned that was evolution. When I first started going out, I would take 6 or 7 counterpoise wires, 17 feet long or whatever, and get down by the water and try to get at least 3 or 4 of them in the water, and then the other ones around.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to Callum McCormick, Dick's commander. He and I had some talks, and he convinced me. I think it was him and somebody else. I was in a live stream, guys, and I only needed one, so I went back and did it with one, and now I'm convinced, just from experience of operating with a bunch and then with just one into the salt water, that I only need one counterpoise wire down to the salt water on a ground on an antenna that is reliant on a ground plane.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
What kind of length are you using? Are you making up the length because you only have one, or?
No, I think what's happened is that the richness of thing around it is so good that like when you hit that wire to the salt water, it's just like it's almost like connecting to a screen. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Everybody sees this magic carpet or whatever. I was like,
Yep.
I got carpet. It's called the Atlantic Ocean. That's kind of where it's at. That's on another thing I've learned. A lot of this is kind of over the last year or so. I've learned is you really even with antennas like I was talking earlier about the half wave vertical. I put a 1 meter long counterpoise on it, and I get back off of the water with that. But just if you're within, say, a wavelength of that salt water, it really doesn't matter. You're gonna boom. It's gonna affect your signal because your first, your first spray of RF is going to be right there in the salt water, and off it goes. So, but it does help to have a counterpoise there at the salt water as well. That's when you really see it.
No salt water here, but I do have about 200 square feet of wire mesh in the backyard.
Yeah,
it helps.
That is, yeah, it does. Yeah, you go out if you could go out with a metal detector around any old AM radio tower and hit the ground, just almost like your mesh, just a wire every degree, like 360 wires all the way around underneath it. I always wanted to find an AM radio station with a defunct tower that wasn't working and go out and put like a vertical ham radio, something right on top in the middle of that ground plane. I bet that would be something like being by salt water. I bet it would be amazing.
Just load up the whole tower and have fun.
That would be cool. And that's all an AM tower is. It's just that tower's the antenna. Yeah, for sure.
So do you do any of that? Just trying to antenna unusual things?
I have done a few unusual things. I think the coolest antenna that I personally built a while ago was I built a quarter wave vertical out of tape measures. This was in Poland, in the backyard in Poland. What I did was Friday, and I'm in a room with all these engineers. I'm like, I want to play this week. I don't know what I'm going to do. And everybody's gone, and I see like just a bunch of these tape measures. I'm going to borrow everybody's tape measure. So I took mine and scraped. I took it to the quarter wavelength for 20 and scraped off the paint. Got an alligator clip and clipped it on there, and I taped it to a pole. And then I took all the other ones and I just spread them all out all around it. I think I had like 6 of them. Put one wire together to that and hooked it to the ground side. And that was like on a Friday afternoon. I got up Saturday morning, took long path to Australia with my G90 with 20 watts antenna. That was really cool. That was an exciting antenna. And now I've seen there's another guy out there now. He's Mr. Tape Measure. I don't know where he got the idea from, but good for him. But so that's pretty cool.
I've seen people use the tape measures for their radials, but never for their radiating elements. So I like that idea.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I think it was about coming up on 2 years ago. I did that. And it was a fun antenna. It really was. And I know I'm in this kind of semi neighborhood in Poland, and I know the people that lived around there were looking in the backyard like, what in the, what is this crazy American doing today? You know what I mean? I think they thought I was a spy anyway because I had a different.
He's used 14 tape measures and still can't measure something.
Yeah, but I think I joked in the thumbnail, said my vertical antenna measures up or something like that.
So you notice different propagation. Just here, like I have different propagation in West Virginia than I have when I'm in Florida. Mm-hmm. How different was it between being in Virginia and being in Poland?
Way different. That was a lesson I really didn't know I was going to learn, but I did. So I was all the way in the north of Poland, and if you look at a map of, like, I was near Gdansk, which I was almost right across the border from Kaliningrad, which is Russia, and I was up there. As a matter of fact, on June 21st of last summer, the longest day, it never got completely dark. I mean, it twilighted from about 10 p.m. to about 2 a.m. It was you could see the orange in the sky, but whatever, but it was really bright there. So the cool thing about that was 20 meters was like wide open all night long. The uncool thing, the thing I didn't realize being that far north, the entire summer there last summer, 10 never opened. I never made a contact on 10 meters. And it drove me crazy. I just didn't understand. And I've even experienced here, sometimes the summer times, 10 kind of gets in that dead zone for a little while or whatever. Up there at that high latitude, it 10 stayed dead there. I was there for 2 summers, both summers. No 10 meter work. 10 and 12 might as well not exist. So it was like 15 and 20, and then 40 meters over there is crazy, especially in Poland. If you guys, everybody knows what 7.200 is like here. There, because especially while I was there, there was a war going on right next door to me with Ukraine and Russia, and you could from about the whole lower end of the 40 meter band was just Russians and Ukrainians playing music like "We Will Rock You." We were, I was just like, and then you didn't even have to understand Russian or Ukrainian to know that it was just like it was like old school bad CB, you know what I mean, or whatever. So 40 was a hard band to work in Poland for me. It really was. So I just love 20 meter band anyway, but that was the one great thing. I would wake up and go to work. I'd have to be at work on the base about 6:30 or so. I'd get up at 4 a.m., which it was already light in the summertime there, and the gray line. And that's when I made all my U.S. contacts. I would just and I never operated with more than 20 watts the whole time I was there. I had my G90, and then I had the FX4CR there while I was there, and I would always just wake up early in the mornings on 20 and operate and get to the United States.
Oh, yeah. It's weird that you said 20 meters didn't do as well. In the 10 meters didn't do as well in the higher terrain. And I noticed the big difference from, again, like I said, just from West Virginia to Florida. I struggle with 10 meters in West Virginia, but every time I go to Florida, I can just slay 10 meters.
Right.
So,
I think the farther south you go, the better it gets, really. Yeah.
So that's kind of weird because you think radio propagation, you think the higher you are, the better.
Kind of, but then you got to look at it as, I don't know. It's like higher, you think higher, but you think higher elevating with a thing. It's just, I don't know. I don't get it. It's crazy. Now, I know the lower bands, I think I've made 10 80 meter contacts here in the United States. I could, over there at nighttime in Europe, I could sit on 80 meters all night long and slay it. I could just load my, from where I was up that far north, I could just load my logbook up on 80 if I wanted to. 80 is a different band there too. A lot different band. It's not, it's 80 is kind of like a DX band is for us for 20 here. It's like, hello, goodbye. Hey, you're 5'7". I'm in Yugoslavia. You're 5'7". Thanks. Bye. QRZ. You know what I mean? Like that's how 80 would go at nighttime sometimes there, which I enjoyed. I really did. It was I will say that the 80 meter band for me is, if I went back, I'd do that more.
I like 80 meters. It's kind of known as the lid of ham radio meters wise, but in the summer when I go out and do like really late evening activations, I love to go on 80 meters because I can just destroy the world on 80 meters. People think it's only for close. I've actually gotten Hawaii on 80 meters before. So,
I like 630 meters. There's nobody there to bother you.
Yeah.
Nice and
I think
quiet.
the band I'm falling in love with, like in the last 4 or 5 months, is the 60 meter band.
Oh yeah,
band. That band's really cool, especially like Gray Line going into the evening. 60 meters is pretty cool. There's a lot of guys here in the mountains of Virginia, the mountains of North Carolina, kind of a group of guys that are always on it. And I break in and talk with those guys quite a bit. It's pretty, and they're great people. I've really met some cool operators on 60 meters. I haven't hit that, that bad guy yet on 60. So
you also mentioned your journey into Morse code, which is a good thing. And the more and more you get into that, you will find that your magic band, which you will love, is 30 meters.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's
30 meters to me is just the perfect band, and they never will. So nobody get their hopes up. But if they ever allowed sideband on 30 meters, it would be phenomenal.
Absolutely, because I mean, I've operated it during solar minimum, and then during solar minimum, I just for months, if not a year. So I'm a 20-meter all day, all night guy. It's just a meter band, and it sucks sometimes. And you just turn the radio off or get on 40. It's 40 to 20 for SSB guys. That's it. I can only imagine that if they opened that up for voice, it would be an amazing band, especially during when things aren't so great. The solar minimum at 30. I'm sure I look forward. The next solar minimum, I'll be operating CW, and I'm sure I'll be camping on 30 for sure.
Let's see. Larry wants to know: are you still using the original G90 you bought? And he's curious how rugged it really is.
It's rugged. This thing is a beast. I got it right here.
Because
everybody always talks. I go through knobs. If I pulled this knob off and showed you how pinched and everything, I think it's horrible. But this is the original G90 with the original. I haven't done a firmware update on it or nothing. It's just.
I've never had a G90, but I know people who have had to send it back numerous times for problems. So I'm glad you haven't had those problems.
I think the newer ones are the ones people are having issues with too. I think that's the first generation when they first came out, and I think they were built a little better.
I agree with that because I also have a first generation, and it still works. It works fine.
I love that radio. Oh God, how I love that radio. If the one of the, like, let's just say ICOM or Yaesu, if you would just make a little portable jack in the box with an SDR waterfall and an ATU, 50 watts maybe, whatever, you would own the POTA world. You would just absolutely own it. And I don't understand. That's why I just got this thing, brought it to life today. I got a 10 Tech Scout 555. It's a 50 watt with all the. I've got all the modules here for it. Right now I've got the 20 meter band in it, but if you can see, I got all the modules. I got the 80, look at 80, 40, 15, and 10, and I got 20 meter band in it. These are cool. It's a 50 watt radio. It's about the size of a CB radio or whatever. It doesn't take a lot of power. It can run a smaller battery with it. That's why I got it. And I did a lot of work on it, and I've got it. I had it on the bench today, and I put a dummy load on it, checked the power. It's putting out 50 watts, man. And
Nice.
I when I screwed it in, I got on a 15 meter band with it, and boom, I hit one of those AO Spain stations right away. And I was like, yes, this is awesome. But getting back to, if someone would even make that radio right now, just something that's not reliant on carrying a brick for a battery down to run POTA, something with a smaller battery. And that's another thing I preach, is the difference between 20 and 100 watts is one S unit. If you could get something, but it doesn't have to be 20 watts, 50 watts, whatever, that you could kind of sell the people on, you would own the market. You would own
with a comparable tuner, because right now ICOM and Yaesu have like 3 to 1, 3.5 to 1 tuners or so. Right. But the Xiegu, Xiegu, however you say their name, products and Elecrafts, you can tune a guardrail.
Yeah,
it's
so crazy. I would love to have an Elecraft. The problem is I don't want to spend $2,000 for a rig that I'm going to like drop in the sand. You know what I mean? It's like I have a hard time with that.
And you have to wait 4 months.
Yeah,
to get it too. Yeah.
Listen, I'm all about American ingenuity and building America and all that good stuff or whatever. But I mean, it is what it is, man. On any Amazon Prime Day, you can get the G90 for $399. And if that thing falls in the ocean tomorrow, I'll just go to Amazon and buy another one and keep on trucking. You know what I mean?
So you brought up an interesting thing, about being dropped in the sand. Do you take any precaution out of the ordinary when you're activating on the beach, to try to keep the sand out of your equipment? Or
I somewhat. I mean, when I go down, I don't have it here. I carry everything in a bucket, like a Lowe's bucket, the big plastic 5-gallon bucket, and I set it down because even I've been washed up on some waves come up on me, you know, out of nowhere. And if it's around me, if it's in the bucket, it's protected from the water. Then I always keep the radio kind of elevated. I never set the radio down in the sand. I'll get it out of the bucket first, and it's in a case or something. Set it in the beach chair, and then put everything together, and then flip the bucket upside down and set the radio on it. It's still, you know, 2 feet above the sand. The wind now, like you can look at some of my videos. As a matter of fact, I could probably pull that G90 now and look at it. I've probably got sand all around the edge of the screen where it just blows on me. And that's, like I said, if I had a $2,000 Elecraft, I wouldn't feel good about that. But with a $399 20-watt radio that has an antenna tuner that'll tune, you know, snot if I wanted it to tune it, it's awesome. I'm sorry it's Chinese made. I don't really want to give them all my money, but somebody needs to build something like that, you know what I mean, and compete with them. I would honestly, if someone's out there, if you're watching this and you want to build a 20-watt radio with an ATU in it that'll compete with them, I'll be your spokes guy, and I will be like Ricky Bobby. I'll have your radio all over me.
I mean, I said I never had the G90. I haven't, but I have owned the X6100, and I love that little radio.
I just sold mine.
You know, I sold mine down in Orlando. Yeah.
You use that for CW, right?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. See, I, as a voice guy, as SSB, the sound on that thing would just drove me crazy. And I'd had to put a powered speaker to it. And then to get 10 watts, I want to use 10 watts QRP when I'm voice. I'd had to have an external battery hooked up to it. I'm like, jeez, might as well just use the damn G90. You know what I mean? It's like, is what it is. But yeah, not to put the radio down. I bet that was, and I'm probably going to regret selling it, but I bet it is a good radio for CW.
Okay,
good question, Brandon.
Go ahead and ask it, Dan.
Question for Walt: if you was to work, if you're going to try to work the 6-meter band, what antenna design would you choose? Say a Moxon. Oh
yeah, I'd love to. No, I would love to build a Moxon. When I was in Poland and there was a contest in Europe one weekend, I built a 6-meter vertical dipole, and I put it all the way up high on the top of I think it was like a 6-meter pole or whatever. And everyone told me I wouldn't work because they said for DX on 6-meter, it needs to be a horizontal polarized, not vertical. I worked DX on that thing in 6 meters in a European contest. I worked like Portugal from Poland is like California from Virginia. I mean, it's on the other side of Europe. You know, it's a long ways. Man, that might be stretching a little bit, but it's a long ways. But yeah, so it was cool. But yeah, so 6-meter, man. Yeah, I would love to build a Moxon. I've man, if you could look through all my sketches and everything, I've been sketching up Moxons and hex beams. I don't know. It seems like, especially when I'm talking to VK, and I get up early in the mornings on 20 and I got guys in New Zealand and Australia I talk to all the time. And when I'm talking to ZL and VK, it just seems like everybody I get through to and that can hear me are on a hex beam. And
I've been thinking really, really heavily about getting a hex beam. And my problem is there's so many different manufacturers of them. I need to talk to people that have them to get their input.
I'm going to Dayton, and I think when I'm in Dayton, I'm going to go talk to the Buddy Hex guys. I might just slap a down payment on one on the Buddy Hex. I'm thinking of it, but it'd be a lot easier than building and building and building, and then that thing not working. I'll be pissed after I've lost all the money I put into it. But I do have a friend in Brisbane, Australia, Corey VK4KA, who has a Moxon, and I have turned my power down to like a watt, and he can hear me, and he says no one else there can hear him, but he's 10,000 miles away, 16,000 kilometers away from me with that 20-meter Moxon. He's running 100 watts, and
oh wow,
he's like 5'9" to me, and I'm QRP to him, and he's like, you're 5'8". Matter of fact, that video I put up a couple videos ago of my favorite antenna being that halfway vertical. I clipped a conversation between me and Corey where he was, and I couldn't hear a guy. A guy was like, I think it was 200 watts. He was talking to somewhere here in the States, and I couldn't hear him. and all I could hear was Corey. So I said, I called. I said K4OGO, and he said, "Hang on a minute, Walt. I'm in the queue." So and he got up. And I waited, and he came back. He goes, "Hey, my friend Walt, K4OGO," and I jokingly said, "Hey, I'm sorry I stepped on top of that guy with my 20 watts." So yeah, I want to build a Moxon. The Moxon I think I want to build. I'm really going to look hard at the Buddy when I'm in Dayton. If I have a yard with it or a place, and I will one day, I'll move to this place and have a backyard when I retire. I'm definitely going to put a tower up and put a Moxon on it. That's what I want to do.
So Michael would like to know if there's a lot of VHF, UHF, and higher activity in Poland.
There is. I didn't really I thought about taking a UV5R with me or some little Fanger or whatever. The problem I had with that was I can speak a little Polish to get in and out of the store and buy a beer or something. You know what I mean? But that's about it. And the problem with in Poland with the UHF and VHF is everything was done in Polish. So for me being an English speaker, it was impossible. You know what I mean? I'm sure, as a matter of fact, I had a SDR radio with me and I would tune up just to see what was going on. Yeah. Like 2 meters, it was jamming, you could just hear it, but it's just like 11 meters there. My G90, I've done the Mars mod on it. So I can go to 11 meters with mine. I would go to 11 meters and just listen around, and it was wall to wall Polish. I mean, it wouldn't do me any good to try to get in with those guys because they probably don't speak English and I didn't speak Polish. So yeah, there is activity there. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Poland is really a pretty big time ham radio country. They still have you go into stores there, you still buy, and I bought a bunch of different copies. I wish I had one on show. They have ham radio magazines still in the in the drugstore there. It's pretty cool. Like we did back in the day when 73 and magazine, you go into bookstore or whatever, and they were there. They're still there in Poland. It's a great country for ham radio. It really is.
Yeah, I can remember as a kid, we'd go in the bookstore and Dad would always go looking for ham radio magazines and stuff and get them. And I remember that.
Yeah, I got about 6 or 7 different months while I was there. I bought them just to collect, just to have them. One day I'll look back and go, hey, I got these ham radio magazines. It's kind of funny. Is like one of them's got a big picture of the Zygu, G106 or something on it, or whatever. That's cool. And other than that, other than the ads, some of the ads might be in, but for other European, everything was in Polish. But and my Polish was a very hard language to learn. It was tough. But being there 2 years, you get good enough to talk to the cashier at the grocery store or the guy at the bar serving you piva. You know how to do it, but it's a tough language.
All right, guys, we're getting close to the top of the hour. If you guys got any questions for Walt, you want to hurry up and get them in so we can get everybody their questions. I think we've caught all of them going tonight. There's 3 of us looking at them. So I know me and Hayden was fighting with one question, putting it up.
Yeah, that was funny.
At the same time, which would take it right back down.
I'm putting Walt's channel in the chat. If you haven't subscribed to him or checked out any of his videos, go do it after the stream.
All righty. And Larry wants to know what your home setup is.
My home setup is my portable stuff. I rotate my radios through. I have a couple power supplies. Problem is this house was built in the 1800s and the wiring on it, I think, was done in maybe early 60s. Half of my house is grounded wiring and some of it's from the 40s or 50s. It's just, this thing is super, super old. So a lot of times I'll just charge battery and use my portable equipment here. I've got a 50-foot coax running out the back window to, there's a fire escape. I'm up on the 3rd floor and I've got the old, Moonraker or the Sigma Eurocom, whichever brand you want to call it, the HF360, the fiberglass multiband vertical, which is basically, I think, about a 17.5-foot fiberglass whip with a 5-to-1 on or 4-to-1 at the bottom.
I have an idea.
Yeah.
scrape some paint off that fire escape,
Yeah.
load it up with that G90. I bet it will tune it.
I bet it would tune it. I bet it would tune. Well,
Mhm.
I'm doing well. Like I said, I get up in the mornings and talk to VK from here with 20 watts with that compromised antenna, because the rails that I have it on, I grounded the rails to the metal roof below it. And the metal roof's pretty big and wide. So I got a big
Nice.
ground underneath.
I'm telling you, if you can get it to tune up to even 3-to-1 and make a dang contact on there, that'll be good content.
That's cool.
Your fire escape video.
Yeah,
Uh,
a lot of fun. I envy guys that can have really good antennas in their home place. So, and like I said, my home shack is nothing beautiful. I do have some. I collect old antique radios. I have a Hammerlin HQ 180 that I occasionally fire up. I have an old military ship's radio from the 40s. I've got a lot of in the.
That's cool.
Everybody needs an Eagle One, Larry, not just Walt.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Have you ever used an Eagle One, Walt?
I have not. No, I have
Or
not.
familiar with it?
I know what it is. Yeah, I just never
Okay.
used.
David says it's a G90 will tune hair. Ask me how I know.
So will my KX2. So I forgot to hook the coax up the other day, and I hit the tune button, and it chugged and chugged and chugged, and it finally set it on 12-to-1. And I was like, okay.
G90 will tune the SO239 socket in the back of it, because I've done it by accident before.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like the time I was going down the road and I had a handheld, and I don't know how, but somehow I'd knocked the antenna off of it, and I heard people talking over the handheld, and I picked it up and got ready to key up, and I was like, "Where's the antenna? And how am I hearing these people without an antenna?" All right. Anyway, I guess we're going to start wrapping it up. Walt, thank you very much for coming on the stream. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.
And
Great.
if you're not subscribed, most of you guys probably already are. Make sure and head over to his channel and give him another sub, and make sure and smash the like button for this one. Walt, what you got coming up on your channel?
I'm going to do a video on this Scout radio here, the one I just got it. I got it fired up and going now. I think what I'm gonna do tomorrow morning, I'm gonna get up. I get up very early in the morning, like 4 o'clock. See if I can make some contacts. I'm gonna look at what the band condition is gonna be like. Make some contacts over, excuse me, to VK in the mornings like I normally do. Put that in it just to see what kind of kind of signal reports I get with it, and then I'll talk about how I brought it back to life, what I did to the radio, whatever. I am going to Kitty Hawk. I'll be down in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina this weekend, so I'll be out on the beach. But I got a couple ideas. I don't know what antenna I'm going to build yet, and I have all the wires cut and everything to make a 10-meter. I'm going to build a vertical 10-meter dipole, and then I'm going to put a director in front of it and kind of make a beam. 2 verticals to make a beam out of. I'm just waiting for 10 meters to start happening again. It has been horrible here, so I don't want to go through all that effort and then talk to some guy 20 miles away. I want to work some DX. So that's kind of what I got planned coming up on the channel.
2 verticals to make a beam, like one being like a parasitic.
Yeah, one's going to. I've done some research into that, and everybody says you should use a reflector. And everything I've read says no. With 2 elements, use a director, a parasitic director. So I've got sketches on it and everything. I'm going to put up a vertical dipole on my 10-meter DX commander, and then I'm going to use the 7-meter DX commander and measure out a parasitic director, and then get the distance between it, and then I'm going to just move it around and see the directivity of it, and basically make a 2-element vertical Yagi out of speaker wire.
Cool deal. All right, Hayden, what you got coming up, bud?
Saturday, US 1577. I'm having our Maryland POTA meetup and memorial activation for Mr. Bob W3 RAR. We will be setting up at 10 o'clock. All are welcome if you're in the area. More than welcome to come by, hang out. We'll be hopefully doing sideband if Bill shows up. Single sideband, or no, CW sideband, and we're going to break out and play with some PSK 31 while we're out there. Starts at 10.
What part of Maryland are you in?
Baltimore.
Okay. Oh, you're just up the other end of Chesapeake Bay for me.
That's right.
Heck, we ought to be able to get on 40 and talk anytime because there's nothing between me and you but the Chesapeake Bay all the way there.
That's right. Plenty of salt water.
Yeah.
All right, Dan, what you got coming up?
Not a lot coming up this week. Give us a like and a subscribe, and head on over to Walt's channel, guys. Coastal Waves and Wires. The links is in the chat. Give him a like, and hopefully everybody has a great rest of the week. And Walt, thank you again so much for being here, buddy. Great discussion, and I learned a lot. Hopefully everybody else did too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. As for me, right after this video, I'll be heading over to the after chat as always to hang out with the Patreons. If you're not a Patreon and would like to hang out in after chat, you can go over to Patreon and sign up for a free 7-day trial, and you can message myself, Dan, or Hayden, and we'll get you in that room and get you squared away. So come check us out tonight. Tomorrow morning, I'm getting up and I'm heading to North Carolina. Road trip begins tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to activating and meeting a bunch of new Patreons down there. So try and catch me on the air. Other than that, we'll catch everybody on the air tomorrow, 73.
See ya.
73.